and welcome to the session on predictive analytics. Typically, it answers the questions like what will happen, when will it happen, and where will it happen. So, in a nutshell, what we can say that it predicts or forecasts a future which is based on probability estimation. Predicting of the future is not a new phenomenon. For decades, we have seen the weathermen, they are forecasting whether it is going to be a sunny day or whether it is going to be a rainy day. Also, we have seen the forecasting of the election result. So, what is new in today's world? In today's world, the sheer volume of the data which makes the prediction difficult and unique. Now, let us see what are the characteristics of the predictive analytics. The predictive analytics are data-driven software tools that draw on confirmed relationships between the variables to predict the future outcomes. Secondly, the predictions that predictive analytics produce are often values indicating the likelihood of a particular behavior or event to occur in the future. We have seen what is predictive analytics and we have seen what are the characteristics also. But in what form the predictive analytics exist in the government? Let's look at that. Firstly, we can say the idea that the government should focus more on preventing problems than just reacting to them is not new. And today, however, advances in predictive analytics allow the governments to work towards anticipating the problems. Now, the effort to make a better decision resulting in a better policy implementation as well as greater efficiency has led to several different actions. One offshoot of these efforts which has been embraced by the public servant is evidence-based decision making or informed decision making. Governments at all levels face daily demands for services that outpace the resources available to produce them, requiring officials to produce better, cheaper, faster government. Predictive analytics allows the government to target resources to areas where they are most needed, improving the best decision capacity. Using the data, government can understand and take precautions against risk much more precisely by directing resources to areas where risk mitigation is most important. So, in a nutshell, predictive analytics allows the government to be more responsive, especially when the government resources are limited in nature. Even though there are many challenges and the risks associated with the predictive analytics, but the uses of predictive analytics is immense and is beneficial for the effective decision making. Now, let us see some of the areas where the predictive analytics can be used by the government. Let us start with the example of the police department. Now, there are a number of ways police departments can use predictions, like to predict patterns of crime, to predict which offenders may commit further crimes and merit more careful surveillance, and to predict which individuals, groups or neighborhoods are at risk of becoming victims of crime. In the case of fraud detection, usually large entitlements programs and social services attract fraud and abuses, which puts a strain on government resources. There is a very high cost associated with the audits and human-led fraud detection. We are no longer dependent on tips from hotliness or the hunches to discover frauds, but rather we would be interested to know the exact detectable patterns which are likely to be associated with fraud and investigating these occurrences directly. Analyzing the data and studying the patterns can reveal significantly indicators that are historically correlated with the presence of fraud. Therefore, by focusing on those indicators, auditors can increase the likelihood that their work will pay off in the form of a higher success rate. Next, in the case of human resource, predictive analytics can help to improve the success of hiring practices. Almost every sectors that invest heavily in the human resources, there is a risk of losing that investment if new hires do not stay in the organization. And predictive analytics can be used to improve recruitment in the first place for the sake of retention. Leading indicators that predict success and long-term job satisfaction can be used to focus the government recruitment and mentoring resources on these employees who are most likely to remain in their position over the long period. Several leading organizations like Google, Cisco and GE are using predictive analytics to guide their hiring rather than relying on their intuitions about the candidates. In the times of disaster, quick access to relevant predictions of impact and estimates of needed resources can make the difference between the life and the death. And how does predictive analytics help? It can assess what responses may be needed more quickly than a human, may be able to realize what is happening, balance all the variables in his or her mind and make a conscious decision to intervene. We shall explore some more case studies and more applications of predictive analytics that can be used for the policy decision during a classroom interaction. With that, we conclude the session. Thank you.